This episode is brought to you by Peloton. Break through the busiest time of year with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus. Powered by Peloton IQ. With real-time guidance and endless ways to move, you can personalize your workouts and train with confidence, helping you reach your goals in less time. Let yourself run, lift, sculpt, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Listen, I just got back from Italy and it was absolute magic. We went for March break and the weather was perfection. Chilly enough at night to justify a cute sweater and scarf, but stunning during the day. And yeah, there were people, but it wasn't too people-y. We were clocking over 12,000 steps a day. You might remember I had both hips replaced a decade ago, but honestly, the bionic parts held up fine. It was the rest of me that started screaming. By the time we hit Venice, I had a blister on my big toe the size of a literal ping pong ball. My dogs were barking. The climax of this glamorous journey happened back in Florence. As I was dragging my tired ass into bed, I noticed a mysterious rash on the inside of my left leg. Since I'm a rational, functioning adult, I did what we all do. I consulted Dr. Google by uploading an image. The diagnosis was clear. Disney rash. Are you fucking kidding me? Not very princess-like. It's named after the theme park because apparently it happens when you walk around too much. And guess who has the pleasure of getting this rash most often? Women over 50. One of the leading causes is dehydration. Honestly, it's so clear why it affects women over 50 the most. Drum roll, the pelvic floor. Raise your hand if you've ever intentionally spent the day parched because you didn't want to spend your entire fucking vacation hunting public toilets. It makes me wonder, where are the studies on the pelvic floor and the absolute ricochet effect it has on our lives? Welcome to the Fuck You 50s, the podcast for women who refuse to tolerate the bullshit anymore. This is real talk, real stories, and a long overdue reality check. I'm your host, Andrea Claire, and this podcast is the filter-free voice you've been waiting for, with a dose of F-bombs. The Fuck You 50s, unfiltered, unapologetic, and undeniably needed. My guest today is Jana Danielson, who is a women's health expert, pelvic floor pioneer, mindset mentor, and the mastermind behind the most talked about sphere in wellness today. Listen, we've been told for decades to just do your Kegels and hope for the best. But today we're saying no to crossing our fingers as a prescription. Grin and bear it is not a healthcare plan. Jana's personal health and pain journey led her to being flushed with embarrassment, unable to keep up in a Pilates class, to owning a 9,000 square foot state-of-the-art wellness center. She didn't just find a solution, she literally built it. She is the creator of the coveted Cooch Ball, a science-inspired pelvic floor tool designed to release tension, improve blood flow, and restore strength. Yes, it works. And the little sister, the Scooch Ball, which is a pocket-sized powerhouse that works tip to toe, from a 2-minute foot release to get you going for the day to using it as a non-invasive fascia facial facelift. Like, who knew rolling a ball in your face would have such great rewards? Jana, welcome to the Fuck You 50s.
The quick version that covers a lot of years of history is farm girl from Saskatchewan, starts getting gut pain at 17 years old, chalked up to me being firstborn, A-type personality, very driven. And I was told that I had a stomach like my dad. So I got my first prescription for an antacid at 17. Fast forward 4 years, and there's now 11 bottles of meds on my nightstand that basically dictate my life, different pills at different times. And if I missed them, I would get this horrendous pain, extra pain. And that's how I was living my 21-year-old life. The gut pain turned into extreme joint pain. I could barely move in the morning. And I taught fitness to pay for my tuition as I was going through business school. So I got really good, Andrea, at like playing the role of the healthy 21-year-old, university student, fitness instructor. But inside, like I felt like I was dying. I hated my body. There was no relationship there. And so, that the fateful day where my doctor sitting across from me in her office said the words, "We believe, Jana, that you are seeking attention and this pain is in your head. Have a nice life," as she closed my phone book thick health file and walked out of her office. I actually felt like my life was over. And it was about, I'm going to say like maybe a month or so after I got engaged. And I remember I went to my car, sat down and cried. And I remember the sun was hitting my diamond and the diamond was just shining. Like it was shining. It was sparkling. And I kept thinking, why would I ever walk down the aisle with this man who I absolutely adore, and be a wife that who knows if I could have children, who knows, right? And that what I realized 6 months after that conversation in my first Pilates class, where you've prefaced that I could not even breathe properly. 4 months after that first Pilates mat class, going twice a week, I was off all 11 medications. I was not, I forgot to tell you, I was peeing my pants every day as a 21-year-old when I coughed or sneezed or laughed. And I was just, and that's why my body was gross, right? Like I'm not, I didn't just have a baby and I wasn't in that scary phase of life, menopause, that we were like told, right, in health class. So that was the start of it for me. Was I was gifted this experience that when I looked outside of myself to get health from the medical industry, and that as soon as that lifeline was cut, I was all on my own. But that was the beautiful part of it, is that I realized that, or I was maybe not realized, but I remembered how brilliantly designed we are. And once I started to understand that, and, the breathing through Pilates, the movement through Pilates, I now know so much more about the nervous system and the vagus nerve and, all those things that we might just overlook or take for granted. But when they are off, the whole system gets impacted. And that's really what happened to my body. So going from that girl in the front row of that Pilates class that couldn't even breathe to literally less than that would have been less than a decade later, opening a 9,000 square foot facility, growing it to a team of 60 clinicians, administrators, and instructors so that people could have an integrated space that if they felt like they were falling through the cracks or they knew that their body was not a one-trick pony, they could come and learn and be a part of, an active participant in their healing. And that's what started it all.
It's crazy too, just the medical gaslighting, how early it starts on for us. One of my daughters, when she was younger, she always had stomach pain, and I was constantly taking her to the doctor, and they were just like, "There's nothing wrong with her," and I'm like, "But she every day is complaining about stomach pain."
Yeah.
So and we took her for allergy testing and everything, and so what was did you find out maybe just on your own what was your base issue?
No, there was never ever a fill in the blank diagnosis, never. And so what I believe it to be was just my system, my nervous system was in a perpetual fight, flight, freeze. I never really could heal. I wasn't breathing properly. I wasn't sleeping properly. I just kept on and on and on. And so, what made me realize that when you are stuck in fight or flight, it really does impact your systems, your circulation, your nervous system, your hormones. Like your daughter, our middle son, had a gut issue. And same thing, took him down that road. And their solution was antidepressants at 14 years old. And I was like, not going to happen. Not on my watch. But how many moms, Andrea, are without, not knowing any better, being like, yes, if this is going to help. So that's the one piece that I really want to tee this up is we've been conditioned in our medical industry to want or need or crave that diagnosis. I have fill in the blank. And how do I know this? I know this because the hundreds of thousands of people that walk through my studio doors, some of them would introduce themselves as their L4, L5 herniation. They wouldn't even say their name. They would talk about their back, or they would talk about, and I'm like, wow, we really get connected to the diagnosis of what the body is dealing with. So really, I believe it was just bringing my system back into complete and utter alignment, trusting my body again, not calling, you know, when you have a sore hip, calling it your bad hip. Well, over time, that bad hip is damn well going to become a worse hip
Yeah.
because that's the energy and the frequency that you're putting into it.
Yeah. I've had a lot of medical issues myself as well. And it's like, can we just figure out what the base of the problem or issue or whatever it is
Yes.
I'm dealing with before like quickly like jumping to like a medication. I'm with you as well. I don't want to mask it with some sort of medication. If you need the science, if you need the medication, if that's the ultimate end game, fine. I've had, and I've talked about this on my podcast so many times that I'm sure people are getting tired of hearing about Andrea's pelvic floor. But I did go to see one urogynecologist, and she said maybe a pessary is just the answer. If that ultimately would have to be my answer, then sure. But
Yeah.
I would rather kind of research what are my other like options.
Yeah. And you know what? I don't want to shit all over the medical industry here because there are some really great people that do their best. I was listening to a podcast where Dr. Zach Bush was being interviewed, and he really framed things for me. He helped me understand that, or what his words were, in medical school, the only time you actually learn about a healthy body, about healthy organs, about healthy tissues is in your first semester of med school when you're doing all of your anatomy and physiology. And then after once you're in your second semester of your first year of medical school, and we know how long medical school can be, the entire curriculum is about disease. And it's not necessarily about how to heal the disease of an organ or of a system, but it's how to create longevity or less pain in that diseased system. Now, isn't that like
just
wild
treating it
to
versus
think about?
healing it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that really shifted things for me because we know that there's really smart people in medicine that go to lots of school that learn about a 3x3 square piece of the body, and that's what they're looking at. But I think sometimes they forget that it is connected to lots of other 3x3 pieces. And so, like you said, yes, maybe the pessary was the answer, but what if your pelvic floor was actually hypertonic, too tight?
Well, that's what, that's
Is that what it
actually what
was?
my problem is.
Okay. So then a pessary and Kegels are actually the last thing you should be experiencing in your body to fix, right?
Yeah. I learned living in Singapore. That's when I went, because I think I connected you with Tamara from the Physio Down Under in Singapore. And so I went to see her because she's a pelvic floor physiotherapist. And so she had said to me, like, stop doing Kegels. So many women, like of all ages, are on the quest, and it's embarrassing. People don't really want to talk about it, of course. They have that chair now, that Kegel chair.
Oh, don't the Mcella.
I went for a facial and in some dermatology clinic, and they happen to have that. They're like, oh, do you want to have a free trial?
How was it?
I just did it once. Of course, I would never do it again just because I don't need that. But it was a weird feeling for sure sitting on it. And I just think it's just so expensive. It just seems so gimmicky to me. And I think a lot of women just want a quick fix. They hear that you only need to sit on, I can't remember the timing is, but like, not a long time. I think it's like less than a half an hour. And then just the cost for those packages. After reading about your Cooch Ball and just your background and how that all came about, it makes so much more sense. And you're not spending thousands of dollars.
Well, no.
either.
And maybe can we just dissect that said strategy a little bit and help women understand that? So there's a couple things at play here. First of all, what the chair does is it creates like thousands of pelvic floor contractions in minutes, right? So first of all, in life, when we're training for something, if you're doing like the Machu Picchu climb, you're going to put a backpack on and you're going to be doing hills, or, if you're going to have a baby, you're going to go to all of your courses. You will never in your lifetime need thousands of pelvic floor contractions in 5 minutes for anything in your life. So first of all, it's getting the muscle to do something that it really wouldn't ever do in an activity of daily living. Secondly, you are a passive participant. So you're sitting on the chair and the chair is doing for you, but there's really no like major neural network that's being rewired. Yes, it's a new experience, but for something, for some longevity in shifting things, I've had a lot of friends that have spent, like you said, the thousands of dollars, and then 6 months later, they're back to peeing and they're like, I got to go back and do another set. And I'm like, yeah, or maybe let's figure out what the root cause is, because studies have shown that 60% of women are hypertonic, which means there's too much tension. So if I wanted to write my name, but I had tension in my fist like this and I couldn't hold a pen, how do I write my name? It's the same thing. If this is my pelvic floor and I want to relax to go pee, I want to relax to go poop, I want to relax to have an orgasm, this is why I'm dribbling when I start to pee. This is why I'm constipated. And this is why I'm always chasing my orgasm, because those muscles need to know when to work and when to rest.
Yeah, it's crazy too, because, and I think you mentioned this as well, as like since the 80s, women have been told to do Kegels. And after you give birth vaginally, you're told to do Kegels right away to make things tight again.
The one thing that I want to say that's important is even the language we use is a little bit messed up, because we don't want tight. We don't want a tight pelvic floor, right? And keep in mind, the pelvic floor, a lot of women think is like one muscle that looks like a hammock that holds up our bladder, our uterus, and our rectum. The pelvic floor is actually 14 muscles in 3 layers, and they all do different jobs. Some are fast twitch muscles. Those are the sprinters. Those are the muscles we need when we cough or sneeze or want to have an orgasm. Then there's the slow twitch muscles. And those muscles are the ones like if you're standing in line at the grocery store or even just sitting on your office chair, like they all have different jobs. And it's actually strength versus tension. And those are 2 totally different things. A strong muscle knows when to work and when to rest. A tight muscle just works all the time. Like think about it. When you lay on your couch and you have like a lot of neck tension, you could be laying on your couch seemingly relaxed, but your neck is on fire because of all the tension you're holding. It's the same thing that goes on inside our body with the pelvic floor. Yeah.
How does the Cooch Ball work?
The Cooch Ball is a 5-inch ball. It's got a 5-inch diameter. So number one, okay, because I get asked this question. Women say to me, do you have different sizes of balls? Because I don't think that's going to fit inside of me. And I'm like, good Lord, it's 5 inches wide. This is not meant to go inside of you, okay? The science that inspired me to create the Cooch Ball was by a urogynecologist that did research with almost 2,000 women that showed that pelvic floor issues were not medical issues. They were fitness issues. These muscles were not working properly. And the issue is that fascia, which is connective tissue in our body, fascia and muscle should glide very, very beautifully along each other. The reality is because we're stressed out or overcaffeinated, dehydrated, in perimenopause and menopause, all these things, they stick together. And when these tissues, muscle and fascia, stick together, the muscle's nutrition via our oxygen-rich, nutrient-rich blood is cut off, right? And I'm all about a good intermittent fast, yes. But when that fast of that nutritious blood becomes months and years and decades, here's the thing, Andrea, is it is so easy to chalk this stuff up to simply aging, right?
Yeah.
Right? The incontinence industry is going to top $20 billion.
Yeah.
So all the pads that we're buying are not solutions. So when you sit on the Cooch Ball and you breathe diaphragmatically, and that's key because your diaphragm is your main breathing muscle. It sits atop, kind of at the top of your rib cage. Your diaphragm and your pelvic floor are like upstairs and downstairs neighbors from each other. But the pelvic floor is very influenced by her upstairs neighbor. Okay. So I'm going to say that again. So the pelvic floor is very influenced by her upstairs neighbor, which is the diaphragm. So guess what? When we're newborn babies and we're breathing and our belly is rising and falling with every breath, we are dialed in. That diaphragm as our main breathing muscle is working. Guess what happens? We become teenage girls and we start sucking in our belly and we start wearing tight clothing and we start wearing high heel shoes, which interrupts or disrupts how our body is managing just the gravity through our bones into our pelvic floor. So now even a running shoe has a bit of an incline. So now those muscles start getting a little tighter. We actually stop breathing with our diaphragm. And because we're so brilliantly designed, we breathe with these little muscles in our neck that are like beef jerkies called the scalenes and sternocleidomastoids.
Say that 5 times fast.
Yeah, exactly. So now what's happening is our posture, our lifestyle is creating more tension because we tend to pitch our body forward, have more weight in our toes. The pelvic floor starts kind of like reins on a horse, like, whoa, Nelly, right? Like is kind of holding us back. And then we're not breathing. So the pelvic floor is looking up at the diaphragm and wondering, did she go on a vacation?
Yeah.
Because there's no movement in that muscle. So when we sit on the Cooch ball and we breathe diaphragmatically, we are not only using the weight of our body on the ball to act almost as like a massage, like we're melting through those fascial restrictions to get blood flow to the muscle. But because we're breathing diaphragmatically, we now trigger the rest and digest parasympathetic nervous system, which is like a huge hug for our body. It tells our body we're safe. It tells our body we're loved, we're okay, we can chill out. And we're also, when we're breathing that way, we take in 600% more oxygen. So now our brain, like for the first few weeks when you get on the Cooch ball, there's a bit of an ouch factor and there's a bit of a like wobbly head because of all of the oxygen that we are giving our brain. We are used to functioning in an oxygen deprived body. And then for those women who truly are what we call hypotonic, HYPO tonic, those are the women that are really lacking tone. The Cooch ball, when they sit on it, it becomes like a floor where their brain can now feel beneath them and can start to learn the actual strengthening. Or the Cooch ball is going to meet you where you're at. You don't really even need to know if you're too tight or lacking tone, because as long as you're breathing, because your breath is your guide. As soon as you hold your breath, your body's like, she's unsafe. We got to protect her, hunker down, guard. And that's not what we want, right? So as long as that's the only rule. As long as you're breathing, you're golden. You work your way up to 3 minutes every single day. This is a lifestyle pelvic floor fitness tool. The metaphor that I sometimes use, because women will say, like, how often should I use it? And my answer usually is, would you brush your teeth once a week and say you had good oral hygiene? No. Right? It's something we do every single day. So this is of the 1,440 minutes that we have in a day. I'm inviting you to take 3 of those to connect with your pelvic floor. Because, and you know what, Andrea, not only is this physical, right? Like, yes, women are peeing their pants when they cough, sneeze, laugh. They're having pain during intercourse. Their vaginas are dry. They're constipated. They're not fully emptying their bladder. And then that makes them go to the bathroom very like more frequently than they should, or they stop drinking liquids after 4 p.m. because they think that's going to keep them sleeping through the night. But it doesn't, because now our urine is so highly concentrated that it's really irritating the lining of the bladder. So now we're peeing more often. So we have all these things that we think we're doing to help our body, and actually they're unwinding it. They're doing the opposite. So in this 3 minutes, we're getting the physicality of the pelvic floor. There's a lot of emotion, a lot of stress, a lot of trauma, a lot of joy, a lot of creation that also, emotionally and energetically is in this area. So we don't only create life in the pelvis, we create ideas, we create businesses, we create friendships. And sometimes when we feel stuck, that's the energy of the pelvic floor that's like, I just need to move. I need to express. I need to let go.
Yeah. The release, right?
Yeah, the release.
You sent it to me, so thank you so much for sending it to me. Then I had a bit of a medical, I don't know if I want to be as dramatic as to say emergency, but so I ended up having to have an emergency colonoscopy, super sexy.
Okay.
And so I started it, but then had to put a pin in it. And but I did notice just a couple times that I used it. It is like, it's such a huge difference. Like, you really do feel it. Dr. Trina Reed introduced us, right?
Yes.
And she had mentioned you to me, and I was like, this really sounds amazing. So I'm so glad that she did. And I've been reading your book, which is also full of such fantastic information. It is definitely like, I truly believe that women need to get on this, literally.
Yeah.
Literally get on the Cooch Ball. And just with your book, like, there is so much information. And I also wanted to say too, just to talking about your comment about the incontinence billion-dollar business. It is kind of crazy because I feel like is so often where pharmaceutical companies, medical companies, people that make money off of our problems, they don't want to solve them. Like, why would they? Because then if they solve them, they're not going to generate money, right?
But it's the illusion of the solution, right? And, the metaphor that I've been using in my community or even on some of my social content is, so if your roof was leaking, would you lay towels down on the floor and kind of wipe your hands and be like, my roof is fixed, right? Like that's actually what's happening in our body, right? We're leaking. And don't get me wrong, I'm all about pads as a strategy. If you're going to a fitness class or going out and you want the confidence, 100%. I am not like completely disrespecting, but if we use it for the right intention, then that changes the narrative, right? We're not using it as a solution. We're using it as a strategy as we get to the root cause to improve our pelvic floor health.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. So a couple of things that you mentioned in your book too. One that I love is the self-thought disruptor. I love that so much. Like the internal monologues that we tell ourselves and how to get out of that. And just refusing to accept the broken and aging out narrative that society gives us, but also more importantly, like the things that we tell ourselves. So do you have any suggestions on how to stop falling back into that negative self-talk?
What really changed things for me was when I learned from Dr. Joe Dispenza that of the 60 to 70,000 thoughts that we have in a day, 80 to 90% of those are the same as last week, last month, and last year. And so when you think about that, we have these moments during the year. New Year's Day would be an example, our birthday, maybe an anniversary, right? Where we're like, that day, that's my goal day. Or maybe the day that you've got a vacation planned. And so all of a sudden your eating changes and it becomes very restrictive because you have this vision of what you want to be like on the beach, right?
Eczema is unpredictable, but you can flare less with Ebglyss, a once-monthly treatment for moderate to severe eczema. After an initial 4-month or longer dosing phase, about 4 in 10 people taking Ebglyss achieved itch relief and clear or almost clear skin at 16 weeks. And most of those people maintain skin that's still more clear at 1 year with monthly dosing.
Ebglyss, lebrikizumab LBKZ, a 250 milligram per 2 milliliter injection, is a prescription medicine used to treat adults and children 12 years of age and older who weigh at least 88 pounds or 40 kilograms with moderate to severe eczema, also called atopic dermatitis, that is not well controlled with prescription therapies used on the skin or topicals, or who cannot use topical therapies. Ebglyss can be used with or without topical corticosteroids. Don't use if you're allergic to Ebglyss. Allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Eye problems can occur. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening eye problems. You should not receive a live vaccine when treated with Ebglyss. Before starting Ebglyss, tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection.
Ask your doctor about Ebglyss and visit ebglyss.lilly.com or call 1-800-LILY-RX or 1-800-545-5979.
Spring is here and the shopping list is long. Time to make a Lowe's run. Buy 3 bags, get 3 free of Stay Green 1 cubic foot garden soil. Plus, right now, members can earn 4 times the points on an eligible purchase. Start spring off strong with these deals and more. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 3/25 while supplies last. Soil offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. See Lowe's.com/terms for details. Subject to change. Point boosters subject to exclusions and more terms apply. One time only offer.
And none of that ever works, because if you think about, if there was a river going through your mind, you're on one side of the riverbank and your future self is on the other, and you start making your way through the riverbank. And the reality about our brain and that prefrontal cortex, who's like the CEO of our brain, she's really good, right? She'll remind us, she'll go through that filing cabinet of memories in a nanosecond when we are like, hey, maybe I should sign up for that 5K, learn to run. She's going to remind you, you'll sign up, and then the days leading up to it, she's going to tell you every single time you did something like that, put yourself out there and then failed. Remember that time, remember that time, remember that time, right? So as we're crossing that river, we would rather go back to the riverbank we came from because we know it. It's familiar versus that riverbank. We can see it, we have a vision of it, but we don't quite know what is it going to be like, right? So what I have done for me and in my community with my women is I created these, what I call enrituals. I made up a word.
I love that.
And thank you.
Yeah.
So I am the girl in the women's health and wellness space that landed here by accident, right? I'm not a physical therapist. I'm a Pilates instructor. I'm a wellness entrepreneur, but I am also very much self-taught. And so the cool thing about that is I learned to ask questions and I learned to keep asking until I actually could understand it enough to share it with my mom. My mom was my litmus test. I'm like, if I can repeat this back to my mom and she can stay on track or she understands, right? Because when you can connect the dots for someone, so that's what I do with my enrituals.
Yeah.
Enrituals are inspired actions that take seconds or minutes a day that are like putting little investments into your wellness bank account that you get dividends on in spades. So filling my water up this morning and drinking it before we finish this conversation, that was one of my enrituals, right? This cup could be full, but did you know that the longer you start your hydration process in the morning, the more numb your thirst mechanism becomes? So an example, taking this cup of water to bed with me. And before I leave my bathroom, after I've washed and brushed and done my makeup, I'm done my water in the morning because I have welcomed the morning. I've woken up my thirst mechanism. Getting outside within 30 minutes of waking up to get that morning sunshine, right? Standing, 60% of your weight in your heels, 40% across the widest part of your foot. They're not extra moments in my day. They're moments that I'm just being aware of it. Eckhart Tolle said, for change to occur, awareness is the first kind of concept that has to be brought into our mind. So that's what the enrituals do, is they bring awareness to us, because guess what? When we can make these little pivots and drop the 180 degree, I was going in this direction and tomorrow I'm going to go in the opposite direction. I'm going to tell you right now, we're not wired for that. We're wired for the tortoise, not the hare. The slow and steady wins the race. And ladies, I just want to share, our 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, they really are truly our best years. And when we can understand how the narrative that we've been taught positions women to not believe that, right? I believe that women are the glue of their families, their communities, of society. And when we can keep them striving for something, with this carrot that we're dangling, the six pack, the certain size of jeans, it just doesn't work. So that is my advice to women, is understanding that the full scale change it starts with literally seconds a day. And that's why all of my things, the Cooch Ball, the Scooch Ball, everything, is that it takes minutes a day.
And I also think it just reminds me, I don't know if you've seen that TV show, but there's that Canadian TV show called Small Achievable Goals. And it stars these two women where they're perimenopausal, menopausal, and it's comedic. It's just that, again, like that small achievable goals.
Yes.
And I was going to ask you as well, for enrituals, what should we consider to have at the top of our list for our own personal rituals? Or is that just just like personal? Or
well, it is, but there are some really quick things that I think a lot of women will dismiss as not having the potential to have big impact, like in the morning. Okay, even before you get out of bed, one hand on the flat bone of your chest called your sternum, one hand on your belly button, and just like 8 to 10 big belly breaths where you're breathing into that bottom hand, right? Start to oxygenate the body. That's when you can also be doing, your prayers, your gratitude. Like, I am so grateful for this man next to me that snored all night, right? Like, things like that, right? Like, even though I wanted to choke him last night, but I'm grateful for him, right? Yeah. So that's how I like to start my morning, because, as soon as your foot hits the floor, it's on for a lot of us, right? My habit used to be to reach over and grab my phone and do a quick scroll and see if anybody or anything needed me.
think we can
And
all relate to that. I feel like
yes,
that's the first thing most of us grab for.
yeah. But guess what? Guess what you are doing the second you grab that device is you are telling your body and what she is ready to, invite you to experience with her that day, that she's not that important, that scroll, right, is important. And so now for about, almost a year now, that
Mhm.
I do not touch my phone until my makeup is done. And even then I grab it, if I unplug it, and I bring it downstairs, and making one of my new enrituals, ladies, is my own homemade chai tea. It's finding these little aha moments where the value that you are giving to your body is completely amplified.
And I would think that it probably helps with your mindset as well, because, sometimes you grab that phone, if that's your first thing that you do in the morning, and you could get a message from somebody that you're like, "Oh, wow, this is so great." Or you could get a message or email from somebody that has, whatever. Like for me, like I work on set as a hair and makeup artist, like maybe a shoot was canceled, or maybe they're asking for something last minute that I don't have readily available. Like whatever, like little things that just kind of like trigger you versus
Mhm.
getting up, having a positive mindset, drinking your water that I clearly need to do right now because my voice is
Yeah,
going.
you're
Yeah.
100% right.
The other thing that I really liked with your Scooch Ball that I was trying is that I think you said it was 3 to 5 minutes just with your feet.
Yes. Yes. I just want to say, for the record, men also have pelvic floors. I want to mention that because a lot of men and women don't realize that they do, because a lot of people think, well, if they can't have a baby, then they mustn't have a pelvic floor. But that's not true. So the foot actually the foot and the jaw have a direct relationship with our pelvic floor. And once the fascia in through the feet, up the back of the leg, up the spine, into the jaw starts getting negatively impacted again by lack of hydration, stress, tech neck, not enough sleep, all of those things, shoes, not moving during our day, that fascia gets really tight. And imagine as adults, if we were trying to fit into a child's size wetsuit, that's what tight fascia feels like. It starts to restrict our movement. So now we're not taking as long of strides when we walk. Now we're starting to stand with a bit of schlumpy shoulders to us. And so the Scooch Ball was created 2 years after the Cooch Ball. So the Scooch Ball is the Cooch Ball's little sister. It's a smaller fascia tool. It is not a lacrosse ball. It is not a tennis ball. Those balls were made for sports. Your body's tissues deserve to have something made for them that doesn't trigger the sympathetic nervous system. So when we start to bring blood flow to the feet, it can impact plantar fasciitis, bunions, hammer toes, heel spurs, Achilles tendonitis, any knee issues, and it works its way up into the pelvic floor. So yeah, in my book, I share it on my socials. I've been sharing this whole concept of death begins in your big toe, because from a circulation perspective, if our toes aren't healthy, the tissues, the organs, the bones between our toes and our heart are also not healthy. So there's a huge correlation there through our fascia.
Honestly, like completely 100% makes sense. And the other use for it that I found really interesting that I think that women really need to jump on is rolling it on your face.
Yes. Yeah.
Would you call it the fascia facelift, right? Is that
Yeah.
right?
The facial fascial facelift. Yeah.
Like, and again, because I'm a makeup artist, so I know the face. But when I was using it on myself, and I've had like gua sha facials and stuff in Singapore,
Yes.
it kind of reminded me a little bit about
Sure.
that. So I don't know, does it, like, do you know, are they kind of like similar? Like,
It's all fascia, right? So
yeah.
yeah, so I love using my gua sha. I use it every single night, and have really changed like my upper eyelids drastically over the past year. So the concept is similar. It's all fascia, right? And as we see women age, you start to see different changes in how the structure of the face just not deals with time, but occurs with time.
Time and gravity. It's a killer.
Right? When we have forward head posture, which a lot of us do from our phones, our blood flow is being negatively impacted. Blood flow is life. Blood flow is longevity. And so I do a combination of using the Scooch Ball above my brows, on the cheekbone, kind of going from my nose, under my eyes, out to like the apples of my cheeks. The gum chewing muscles, the masseter, those are a great place to use. And then I use my gua sha.
Is this why you look so much like Lindsay Lohan?
Do you
Do you ever get that? The whole time I'm talking to you, I'm like, oh my God, it's
No,
because you're doing the fascia facelift.
yeah, maybe. But what I do get, I mean, at the end of the day, like at 52 years old, like when I go back and look at, photos from 10 years ago, or when I was really ill at 21 years old, I actually look older at 21. You can see it in my eyes. My eyes are dead. My skin is dead. I'm smiling, but it is so fake. And I think that's what's really part of living a joyful, connected life. And I know that there are many people out there that are not. I don't want to sound Pollyanna-ish, but the reason I feel comfortable sharing this is because like 30 years ago, that was me. I never got to the point where I was really considering not wanting to be on this planet anymore, but I lived with pain every single day, major pain for 4 years. And that does a number on your mindset, on your brain, on your outlook. The sky, yes, that color is blue, but not in my world. So I hope that if that is where you are and you are listening to this conversation today, that you can find, one little spark and that's literally what it takes, is that one little spark.
Absolutely. I also think too, like people that are listening need to understand that there is a community out there. And this is why I get a lot of great feedback and comments from my podcast, because women that have listened to an episode that really resonated with them. And yeah, like I hope people listening, if they're feeling kind of alone, that you're definitely not. I had health issues in Singapore. I got a mosquito illness, like chikungunya, and it attacked all of my joints. And because of that, I ended up having to have both of my hips replaced. And I had more of an extreme case, but because I was young, like I'm turning 55 in a couple of weeks. But when I had my first hip replacement, that was 2015, and that was my right hip. When you're in pain all the time, it's so frustrating. And yeah, it's depressing. Living with pain is just,
Yeah.
It's one of the most frustrating things that I feel like I've had to go through. And you just want it solved. I guess that's my big monologue about pain. So, and if we, flip it back to doing the fascia release, like I noticed a difference.
You will.
I remember when I was talking to Dr. Reed, and then we were talking briefly about this, and she was just saying how a lot of women that have tried your Cooch Ball, that they notice like immediate. Well, then I definitely need to talk to Jana and test it out.
And that's just the way it, for many women, they will feel something like something different. They'll feel tingliness, or they'll feel warmth, or they'll feel a sense of openness, but not all women, right? Because everybody obviously has a different story, and some women don't think they're very disconnected from their body, but they actually are. So, what these tools do, it's an invitation to get reacquainted with your body again. We are truly meant to move. The one little enritual that this is a good time to mention it is, after we've been sitting for an hour, 50% of the blood flow to our legs has decreased. So think of like the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz, right? It takes a few steps to kind of get going again. But guess what? Moving for 2 minutes every hour negates that 50% decline in blood flow. So if you're at a desk, just stand up, walk in place, even lifting and lowering. There was a study that showed we're starting to see how valuable going for a 10-minute walk is after we eat from a metabolic health perspective, and how it impacts our insulin and how we manage the glucose in our blood. 10 minutes. All right. And when you can't walk for 10 minutes, if you're literally sitting at a desk, little heel raises for 10 minutes will do the same thing as a 10-minute walk. And it's so, what I'm hoping that I'm communicating here, Andrea, for your listeners is that we need to hit pause on a lot of the belief systems that we have been conditioned to buy into, that women's health at some point is this downward trajectory. We're not supposed to feel sexy. We're not supposed to have mind-blowing orgasms. We're not supposed to live without pain. Like, we're supposed to sit with our friends having tea and talk about all the, up on how many medications we are on. And I don't buy that anymore. It's like, it's an antiquated way of thinking about our body.
I can't agree with you more. And I think we've seen a big shift and change in it over the past couple of years anyway. But there was also that hit 45, cut your hair shorter, wear your longer dresses, or, nothing tight anymore. And it's just like why? Like, who told us to do that? Like, it's such bullshit, right?
It is. So you can find me at janadanielson.com, all the socials, jana.danielson. And I answer every single DM. I do, because I feel like, especially with where what my lane is, women share a lot with me. And if you take the time to tell me about your life and where it's at, I'm not going to say that I have all the answers. And I might refer you to find like a pelvic floor physical therapist in your area, but you are going to get a response back from me, because that is really, really important that women feel heard and not dismissed. And so please do reach out.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fuck You 50s. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to follow and rate the podcast. And we would love to connect with you on Instagram. So be sure to follow us at the Fuck You 50s. The Fuck You 50s is hosted by Andrea Claire. See you next time.
The UPS Store is making packing and shipping Easter gifts quicker than ever this year with UPS Air. How quick? Quicker than a walk around the park. Quicker than eating all the Easter candies. Quicker than finding a golden egg that you know is stuffed with cash. When you ship UPS Air at the UPS Store, your items arrive on time or your money back. Guaranteed at no extra cost. Exclusively at the UPS Store U.S. retail locations. Send Easter joy on time at the UPS Store. Visit the upsstore.com/air guarantee for full details. Terms and conditions apply.